Some breaking news coming out of Uganda, where a controversial presidential election is currently taking place. We're hearing from opposition leader Bobi Wine's party, National Unity Platform, on X that an army helicopter has landed in Bobi Wine's compound and forcibly taken him away.
These are deceitful and insightful allegations intended to depict the security agencies of Uganda.
Welcome back to the community once again, ladies and gentlemen. Guess what? This report describes a serious political event that unfolded in Uganda during the release of presidential elections results. It involves state security forces and opposition leader and actions taken in the capital city. The details come from official statements, party claims, and reports by journalists and international observers. The information follows events as they were reported step by step without interpretation. On 17 January 2026, Uganda's main opposition leader, Robert Kyagulanyi, also known as Bobi Wine, was reportedly taken from his home in Magari, a suburb or area of Kampala. His political party stated that military personnel arrived using an army helicopter. According to the party, guards at the property were exhausted or attacked. They also said that electricity was cut and security cameras were switched off before Bobi Wine was taken away. The party said he was moved to an unknown location. At the time of the report, no official statement had confirmed where he was being held. The government had not publicly explained the operation. Journalists were unable to access his home to verify events independently. This reported incident took place one day after disputed presidential election results were released. Early official figures showed President Yoweri Museveni in the lead with about 75% of the vote. Bobi Wine was listed with about 21% based on the results from roughly 70% of polling stations. Opposition groups questioned the credibility of these figures. They said the vote was affected by fraud and intimidation. They also reported cases of abductions involving opposition members. These claims were made as internet access across the country had been shut down, limiting communication and reporting. Bobi Wine's party said the security operation at his home was part of a wider effort to restrict opposition activity. They linked it to the release of election results and the growing public reaction. They said the actions were sudden and forceful. The report described highlighting security across Kampala. Soldiers and police were seen in several areas. Roads near key locations were monitored. Movement was restricted in some neighborhoods. At the same time, ladies and gentlemen, the government continued to oversee the vote count. The Electoral Commission said the process was ongoing and controlled. Officials stated that final results will be announced after all data was reviewed. This situation followed a tense election period. Campaign events had faced disruptions. Both the ruling party and the opposition accused each other of causing unrest. International observers had already raised concerns before voting began. The reported removal of the opposition leader marked a critical moment. It drew attention from local citizens and international partners. Embassies and rights groups began monitoring the development closely. As events continued to unfold, statements from political parties, police, and election officials presented different accounts. These accounts formed the basis of the public record at that time. On 16 January 2026, one day earlier, Uganda's presidential elections results began to show a clear lead for President Yoweri Museveni. Official figures released at that stage placed him well ahead of his main challenger, Bobi Wine. The numbers were based on returns from about 70% of polling stations nationwide. According to these figures, Museveni had secured roughly 75% of the vote. Bobi Wine was reported to have about 21%. The remaining votes were shared among other candidates, although several people contested the election. The race was widely seen as being between these two men. Bobi Wine and his party immediately questioned the credibility of the results. He said he had been placed under house arrest. He reported that security forces surrounded him his home in Kampala. He said soldiers entered his compound after he voted. He stated that no one was allowed to enter or leave. He urged his supporters to ignore what he called fake results. He accused authorities of trying to control public reaction to alleged vote theft. Journalists later said they were blocked by security forces when they tried to reach his home in the Magari area. Police gave a different explanation. A police spokesperson said the heavy security presence around Wine's home was for his protection. The spokesperson described him as a person of interest because he was a presidential candidate. Police said the deployment was meant to prevent unrest. As results continued to come in, reports of violence emerged from Butambala district, about 55 kilometers southwest of Kampala. Opposition figures said at least seven supporters were killed overnight. News of the death came out later because of the nationwide internet shutdown imposed earlier in the week. Member of Parliament Mawanga Kivumbi from the Wine's National Unity Platform spoke to the AFP news agency. He said soldiers and police fired tear gas and then live ammunition at hundreds of people. He said they had gathered at his home to follow early election results. He stated that 10 people were killed inside his house. Human rights activist Agatha Atuhari confirmed this account to the Reuters news agency. Her statement supported claims that live fire had been used and that death had occurred at the location. Police spokesperson Lydia Tumu Shabi rejected this version of events. She said officers acted in self-defense. She said there had been an attack on police station and an attempt to overrun a vote tallying center. She stated that the group involved was armed with matches, ashes, and boxes of matches. She confirmed that at least 7 people were killed. These conflicting accounts highlighting the tension surrounding the vote count. With internet access cut, information spread slowly, verification was difficult. The situation remained highly controlled by security forces as counting continued. Later on Friday, ladies and gentlemen, the United States Embassy in Uganda issued a public alert to its citizens. The alert followed reports that security forces were using tear gas and firing into the air to disperse gatherings. The embassy advised cautions. The Electoral Commission addressed concerns about the internet shutdown. Commission chairperson Simon said the blackout had not affected the vote count. He stated that results were being transmitted through a private system. He added that final results will be announced within 48 hours. The internet suspension had been ordered earlier in the week. Authorities said it was necessary to prevent misinformation, fraud, and of course, incitement of violence. The United Nations described the move as deeply worrying. The UN had already warned before the vote that the election could be marked by repression and intimidation. On election day faced several problems. In many areas, voting started late. This was due to delays in delivering ballot boxes. Some observers linked these disruptions to the nationwide network outage. The campaign period before the election was tense. Opposition events were often disrupted. Security forces were accused of assaulting or attacking and detaining supporters of Bobi Wine. Police denied these accusations. They said opposition supporters were provoking unrest. President Museveni, aged 81, was seeking a 7th term in office. He first took power in 1986. He argued that his leadership ensured stability and development. Bobi Wine, aged 43, is a musician who later entered politics. He presented himself as a representative of Uganda's youth. He promised reforms and an effort to fight corruption. Following the 2021 election, Bobi Wine had also been confined to his home for several days by security forces. That earlier election saw him with 35% of the vote. This past event was recalled by observers as similar measures were reported again.